Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, it said connecting to server. So I moved from the US to New Zealand in 2008 when the big financial collapse happened in the US. I was actually in a PhD program in philosophy, so I was in a very different track in life. And I moved to New Zealand in 2009 to pursue my other passion. I played soccer in college. I've been an athlete my whole life, and I've loved health and wellness and fitness and that whole world. And when my dream of being a professor kind of shattered, I decided to pivot completely. And in 2009, I moved to New Zealand, started a franchise of wellness clinics. We started with one tiny little clinic in Auckland, which is the main city in New Zealand, and we expanded to 8 different clinics in only 3 years. So we had a tremendous amount of growth in the business. And from the outside looking in, it seemed amazing, right? We were winning awards from Westpac, which is like the main bank in New Zealand, and we were getting accolades, and the business was growing. We were recruiting new franchisees, and everything looked like it was going amazing, but the reality was actually very different in my own personal life. So for those of you who are out there, if you're an entrepreneur or a business owner, you know it's very challenging at times, right? So even though the business was growing, all of the money that we were making in the business was being invested back into the business, right? So the more locations that we built, I thought that meant more money, right? Which it did, except for it also means more expenses. So we had to pay for rent, we had to pay for staff, we had to pay for internet, all of those overheads to keep a traditional business running. And they were leaving me at the end of the day with no money actually for myself. So there was a period of time, actually, when I first met my amazing wife, Deep, and I'm sorry, Simmer and Deep, I actually didn't have a home. I was living in my wellness clinic and I was sleeping on friends' couches, and life was very difficult. I put on about 20 kgs, and my whole body was inflamed because I was drinking in order to deal with the stress. And I just was not well at that time. And so I signed up for a boxing fight so that I could get myself into shape and try to do something positive that would get me back into that sort of fitness and that routine. And when I was training, it was a 6-month training program. They had us working out twice a day, 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours at night. And it was a great structure, but my body was really struggling to keep up with the demands of working out. And so I actually got introduced to these products from a naturopath on the North Island of New Zealand. And we got introduced to the products. I went and saw a presentation actually very similar to this in one of my friend's house. And I knew right away, without halfway through the presentation, I knew that there was something very different about these company, something very different about these products. And so I decided to get started and taking the products originally. I had no intention actually of doing this as a business, but I took the products, and within 2, 3 days, I felt a huge increase in my energy in the morning and my ability to recover from the 2-a-day workouts. And I realized, wow, nutrition actually makes an incredible difference in our life. And so I started incorporating the products when I was working with some of our patients in the clinics. And about a year later, my dad got diagnosed with prostate cancer, and he was 73 at that time. He was also a chronic asthmatic for like 20 years, and he had arthritis in both of his knees, right? So 73 years old, had some health challenges, and I just shared these products with him, and I said, "Hey, I don't know if this is going to make a big difference for you, but it's made a big difference for me." And so we put him on the multivitamin that we have, the Magna-Cal D that we had, and the Precosa, which is like a joint formula, and one other product called Proflavanol C, which is like a grapeseed extract and a vitamin C. Very, very good for respiratory health. And within 1 year, not only had my father actually healed from the prostate cancer, but to this day, touch wood, he is off of the steroid inhaler that he used for the asthma, and he is super fit. Rides a bike every September. We ride 300 miles for cancer awareness, and he's just in amazing health as an 84-year-old man. So he's been taking these products for 11 years now. But that transformed my belief in the power of personalized targeted nutrition. And so I changed my life completely. After 2.5 years of just kind of integrating these products into the clinics, I decided that this is what I wanted to do full time with my life. And so I was finished with traditional business with all the stress and all the overheads and everything that goes with that. And I decided I want to pursue this business. It's online. I have, location freedom. It allows me to help people in tremendous ways. And that was it. I decided to really go all in full time with USANA. And in 2015, moved to New Zealand. Or sorry, we moved to Indonesia, helped the company launch in Indonesia, worked there for 5 years. Didn't know the language, didn't know any people. We just took a leap of faith, and it's the best decision that we ever made. Right? We were there for 5 years. Obviously, COVID happened, and then we started looking at India. And after, 4 or 5 long years of trying to get the company ready for the Indian markets, a very big market with a lot of challenges, we made it. We got 3 manufacturing facilities here, and we are here in India, and we're excited about the opportunity to bring this company and these amazing products into the market and really transform people's health. So that's a lot of the background that's going on. But actually, today, I want to talk to you about why people are dealing with chronic disease. Okay. If you think COVID was a pandemic, which it was, the biggest epidemic that we are facing in our lifetime is actually chronic disease, degenerative disease. And a degenerative disease is defined as something that something that happens slowly over time versus an infectious disease, which is something that you catch like through the air, like a cold, or actually I have a viral right now. So you catch that from someone else, right? But a chronic degenerative disease is something that builds over time. And I'm just going to go through some stats here, and it's a little bit scary, but it's real. And I think we can all probably relate to this. I guarantee you, everybody on this call has someone in their family that has had or is right now dealing with one of stroke, cancer, respiratory disease, diabetes, these main killers. And the statistics are very clear right now. 70% of all death happening in India is correlated to a degenerative disease, cardiovascular disease, respiratory disease, excuse me, digestive gut issues, respiratory issues, all of these, right? So if you look at cardiovascular disease, 28% of total deaths in 2023 were because of heart disease. Hypertension, right? Another issue when it comes to your cardiovascular system. 30% of all Indian adults, with it happening more and more in younger people, right? Diabetes. India has over 73 million people with diabetes, which is over 8% of the entire population, and rising, right? Diabetes is probably the biggest risk that we have as a human family right now, because when you get diabetes, you are 10 times more likely or at risk to get one of these other degenerative diseases. Chronic kidney disease, respiratory issues, cancer. right? Cancer cases increased from 1.39 to 1.57 million in this year, right? That's an incredible increase. So the question that I want to like pose to everybody and that we're going to talk about now is, why is it that despite the advances in technology, the advances in medicine, the fact that we're moving into a modern world where we have ChatGPT, all of these resources and technology at our fingertips, and yet we are by far the sickest human family that's ever walked the planet? And that is a fact. It's not my opinion, right? So that is a very serious question, right? Because if this technology and all of these increases are not helping us get healthier, what are we going to do about that? Because without health, as we've already said, you have nothing, right? So we want to get to the source of what is causing these diseases and how can we reverse them? So one of the big reasons is a massive increase in the prevalence of, we'll call it big pharma, right? Pharmaceutical companies entering into the health market. And that's a huge problem because the pharmaceutical companies don't profit from people getting healthier. So it's a huge conflict of interest and problem for us if pharmaceutical companies have influence over the decisions that families make about food to eat, things to put into their bodies like that, right? So that's one big factor, is the presence of pharmaceutical companies in our health conversations. The second thing is the shift from traditional diets to modern processed foods. Okay. In essentially one generation, right? If you look at our grandparents or even your parents, probably, when they were young, they ate in a very, very, very different way than we do now. And so processed food is a massive source of disease. And by processed food, I mean anything that comes in a can, box, bag, anything that's not like coming from the earth or running around on the earth, for my non-veg lovers out there. Those are actually alive things that we then eat, right? They sustain our body. Processed food is dead. These are things that are not alive and providing us with the nutrients that we need. So the long story short is, it's not bad luck, right? And it's not hereditary. You know, this is one of the big myths that we have to dispel all of the time. And especially here in India, I remember when I came here, my wife and I got married here 10 years ago. There's a big misconception that somehow diabetes is a genetic condition. Genetic meaning you pass it on in the DNA from family member to family member. It's not true. That's a lie, and it's designed to keep you on medication for diabetes. The reality is diabetes is created through our lifestyle, and it's something that we create, right? So if we create it, the good thing about problems is if you create the problem, you can also solve the problem, right? So we're going to focus on that today. So I'm just going to quickly go through these. So these are the prevalences of obesity and diabetes. And this is a massive problem. Okay, if I'm just going to look at the difference between 2000 and 2040 with obesity, approximately 1.2% of adults were obese, right? Now, by 2040, the predictions are 13.3% of people are going to be obese. And that's a massive problem, because obesity is, again, like diabetes, it's a mother of other diseases. It gives birth to all of these other diseases, right? And then if we look at diabetes, in 2000, about 31 million adults between 20 and 79 had diabetes. 2045, it's projected that that's going to grow to 124 million adults based on current trends. Okay, that is terrifying, because you're talking about the most dangerous degenerative disease that's expanding in our families like crazy. So let's go over why. Why is that happening? Why are these numbers so radically accelerated? So one of the main things, and we talked about this, is processed foods. A processed food, like if you look at like even the deli meat, if you buy deli meat from the grocery store, things like that, right? They are full of toxic chemicals that your body cannot process, and it causes massive amounts of inflammation inside of your body. And every food that you see on this screen right here is full of carcinogens. And a carcinogen is something that causes cancer. And cancer, again, is skyrocketing right now. The numbers of cancer is terrifying. I guarantee everybody on this call knows 5, 10 people that have either passed away or are dealing with cancer right now. It's a terrible disease, and it's totally preventable. So seed oils, okay, we're going to talk about this as we go on, but these are also things to avoid, specifically soybean oil, canola oil, corn oil, sunflower oil, right? These things have a very low smoke point. Okay, so if you put it on a salad, that's one thing. Okay. If you cook with any one of these seed oils, it has a very low cook point, which means it oxidates almost immediately. So if you're cooking with oil and it oxidates immediately, and then you put your food in it, it's oxidizing all of that food, and that oxidation is actually causing massive amounts of inflammation in your body. So it's very, these are simple things that you can change in your life that make a big difference. So let's hear from an expert about the danger of seed oils.
What are the main culprits? I'm aware that there's probably an awful lot. What are the ones that are carrying most of the weight and doing most of the damage, in your opinion?
Any kind of processed seed oil. So cottonseed oil, canola oil, corn oil, soy oil. The majority of those come from genetically engineered seeds that are designed to withstand heavy doses of glyphosate, which has now been linked to cancer in many different court cases across the United States, and awarded plaintiffs billions of dollars. Okay, so this is a closed shut case. Our oils are being produced with this very toxic chemical. Then the way the oils are actually extracted, they're extracted with hexane and different chemicals, deodorizers, and bleach agents before they get to the supermarket. And the FDA, unfortunately, does not monitor the residues of things like hexane that are left in a lot of these oils. Not to mention cottonseed oil is something that is actually produced from the textile industry. This is not even regulated like a food. It's a textile, so it has way worse pesticides and chemicals allowed for use on cotton. But they found out that they could use this byproduct in our food system. And it's actually one of the, what was the main ingredient in Crisco for so long. When I'm looking for a product to buy on the shelf, I look for things made with olive oil, coconut oil. I look for things made with avocado oil, and that's about it. And I use grass-fed butter and ghee at home to cook with, and I eliminate all seed oils. So that's like the first thing that you'd want to do.
Okay, so I hope that was pretty clear. She's pretty clear there, right? And in India, the good news is you have a prevalence of clarified ghee, right? So you have probably the best thing that you can cook with here available to all segments of the population at all times, right? So those are the options that you have that are available, that are better options than a lot of these seed oils that are going to be very dangerous for us. Right now, let's look at the next thing, which is actually sugar and refined carbohydrates. So let's listen to another expert about why they can be so dangerous.
There are 262 names for sugar. 262. And the reason is because the food industry likes it that way, because they can use a different name for sugar on the side of the package, and a different sugar can be number 5, number 6, number 7, number 8, number 9, and when you add it up, it's number 1. They hide it in plain sight. But virtually every one of those 262 It's because of the fructose. That's the problem. So what is glucose and what is fructose? And while we're at it, what is sucrose and high fructose corn syrup? Too. Glucose is what plants make in starch. Fructose is what plants make in sugar. Starch, not sweet. Sugar, sweet. Glucose, not very sweet. Fructose, very sweet. Fructose is addictive because fructose stimulates the reward center of the brain and tells you, this feels good, I want more. In the same way cocaine, heroin, nicotine, and alcohol do. And it makes sense because fructose and alcohol are metabolized the same way, do the same things, metabolic.
Okay, so again, pretty clear, right? Sugar activates the same centers in your brain as drugs. And that's pretty scary because, like we said earlier, the pharmaceutical company, they literally put sugar in baby formula. So I'm not saying they're doing this on purpose, but it, you know, make your own conclusions. But from the time that we're very young, we're being fed excess amounts of sugar. So by the time people have the ability to come of age and make personal food choices, they're already addicted to sugar and they don't even know it. So they're making bad choices about food, mostly because they have an addicted brain. And that is not good for any of us. And sugar is hidden in everything. Everything that you eat, everything that's processed is going to have some form of sugar in there. So just be aware of these things when you're making your food. Please make your food at home, right? If you eat outside, you never know what people are going to put in your food. There's a beautiful human being named Michael Pollan who wrote a book called Eat Real Food, Mostly Plants. And he said the number one thing that people can do is just eat at home. All right, now let's go into grains and gluten and talk about what are some of the potential dangers that exist within grain and gluten. Okay, there's nothing inherently wrong with grain and gluten. Okay, I want to make sure I'm clear about that. But it's the way that these things are processed these days that are making them much more dangerous.
I don't know if you know, but grains could be contributing to your weight gain. Here's how. First, grains have been genetically hybridized to increase yield. The problem with this is that this is increased specific lectins in the plant, like gluten. Gluten is pro-inflammatory, can cause damage to the intestinal lining, and if you have any inflammation in your gut, it's going to be really hard to lose weight. The fiber in grains can also feed gram-negative bacteria in your gut, which produce endotoxin that can be absorbed in your bloodstream and lead to inflammation. And too much endotoxin is associated with weight gain too. Pesticides often sprayed on grains are known endocrine disruptors that impair hormone function, particularly estrogen, which can lead to fat accumulation as well. Grains are often also fortified with literal iron shavings, which is obviously not a good thing since excess unbound iron can increase oxidative stress and damage your mitochondria. So I personally avoid grains at all costs, and if you want more simple and effective fat loss tips like this, give me a follow and join my newsletter at metabolicupgrade.com. I send out actionable weight loss tips every week that I think you'd like.
Over the years, we've hybrid different grains, like wheat, to have more gluten, okay? And this is one additional problem. And then there's also additional problems too. When you enrich or fortify these flour products, especially bread, with synthetic vitamins and iron, a lot of people react to that as well. Now, the point I'm trying to make is that I'm just taking one aspect of grains, and that's gluten. But there's a lot of other additional problems as well. But I think even when people go off grains and they start the ketogenic plan, one huge reason why they might even feel so much better is not even necessarily the lowering of the carbohydrates. It is the abstinence of eating these grains that eliminate a lot of the inflammation that is going on in the gut and then all the associated symptoms.
Okay, so the problem is actually, and if you guys look at the word gluten, okay, you can see that there is a magical little word that's actually in that word, right? And it's glue. And it's ironic, but the way that gluten functions in your body is it becomes like a glue in your intestinal linings, and it prevents food from being actually smoothly put through your intestinal lining, and it allows you to then have good bowel movements, etc. It's also how you detoxify your body. So if you're eating foods that are high in gluten all of the time, what you're doing is you're causing excess inflammation in your gut, and your body is not able to absorb the nutrition from the food that you're actually, if you are eating good food, your body's not able to absorb those nutrients because the gluten is performing a glue-like layer on your mitochondria and preventing that absorption of the nutrients. Now, that's also linked to the next thing that we'll talk about, which is pesticides. And this is super dangerous because it's literally poison that is hidden around us everywhere. So, especially one of them called glyphosate. And this is probably the most used pesticide. And the reason why a lot of the big agricultural companies use it is because the pesticide kills off and scares away the bugs, right? They don't want the bugs to eat the plant because that's their monetary source. The problem is you're now eating something that has the ability to kill bugs, okay? And it is destroying your gut bacteria. Another thing is MSG. For those of you who might be aware of MSG, it's something that a lot of restaurants put into food because it's massively addicting. If you eat anything with MSG, you'll notice you'll feel kind of like a film over your tongue, but the food tastes incredible, right? MSG enhances all of the flavors and the experience of the food, and it makes you want more, right? But that's very, very dangerous because it is a neurotoxin that causes cancer, but it has that kind of addictive side effect. And so companies and restaurants will use it to get you to eat more food. So let's listen to one of the experts about glyphosate and how dangerous this is.
I'm literally shaking making this video. You're going to be shocked. Glyphosate is the active ingredient in the weed killer Roundup, and in the mid-90s, a steep incline of the amount of it being used. That's because of the introduction of genetically modified crops like corn and soy, which can be directly sprayed with the weed killer. Blue is the amount of genetically modified crops being planted, and red is the amount of weed killer being sprayed on them. The yellow is the incidences of liver cancers, correlating at the same incline. Unfortunately, it's not just liver cancer that has the same chart as this. It's across the board in so many chronic illnesses. I'm going to go through them here with you now. Stroke, mid-90s, up. Diabetes, the same. Crohn's and ulcerative colitis, the same. Deaths from Alzheimer's. Deaths from dementia. Parkinson's disease, mid-90s, up. Autism in 6-year-olds, the prevalence of it, mid-90s, up. Autism in 6 to 21-year-olds is the exact same across everyone. Renal disease and death from obesity, it's all the same. Thyroid cancer and then bladder cancer. And this is only a few of them. There was 22 different diseases in this study, including MS and many more. It's absolutely awful. It's there in black and white. I don't know what else to say.
So facts don't lie, right? People's opinions might, but facts don't. And there is a direct correlation with all of these health trends since the time that pharmaceutical companies and big agricultural companies with all of their billions and trillions of dollars started entering in the food industry. And unfortunately, us, the masses of people that go out and buy food, we may not even know that that's the case. So we go about our life making normal food choices without knowing that a lot of the food that we're eating is actually being poisoned. And we're eating that poison. So this is something that we need to know because inflammation is the root cause of all disease. Okay. Inflammation is also like if you cut your finger and it gets red and sore, okay, that's inflammation. So inflammation actually has it's an adaptive response by your body. Your body is very intelligent. So inflammation is an adaptive response to your body, by your body, to a problem, right? That's how you heal. The problem is if your lifestyle is creating a inflammation chronically in your body at all times because there's a problem that your body's constantly trying to heal, you now have chronic inflammation and degenerative disease is virtually guaranteed. Okay, so we need to reduce the amount of inflammation in our body that is mostly caused by the food that we eat. We talked about this gut microbiome, right? Your gut issues are caused by these foods and they lead to autoimmune conditions. And this is a huge thing in India, right? Deep and Simmer are actually partnering with a company called She Care to focus specifically on women's health and hormonal dysregulation and hormonal imbalances. This is another one of these things that skyrocketed. Obesity, PCOS, and thyroid issues. Almost all of the women that you know are dealing with one of these challenges. And it's not an accident, right? It's being caused by our food and our lifestyle. And here's the reality I want to kind of leave people with, okay? And I'm not trying to scare anybody, but the reality is we need to know that the people that are making a lot of the decisions when it comes to what food that we should be eating do not have our best interest in mind. And their number one goal is to make money. And they are happy to make money even if it means more people get sick. Because remember, pharmaceutical companies are in the sickness industry. They're not in the health industry.
So big pharma and big poison in ag are the same players. And the poisons give you cancer. Like Monsanto Bayer uses glyphosate, which gives you cancer. And then Bayer has the patented cancer drugs. Yeah? All these industries are already monopolizing drugs to deal with the side effects of the vaccines. So it's a, create a disease and offer the cure and make money twice.
So this is just food for thought, okay? There is a connection between the food that you eat, the sickness that you get from that food, and then we all know you go to a doctor and they're going to tell you one of two things. You need medication or you need some sort of surgery. And the more medication that you take, if you don't change your food, what will happen is that you will get sick again and you will go to the doctor and they will give you more medication. And because doctors and the allopathic medical tradition don't really have a solution to the problem, because medication is not a solution. It's something that deals with symptoms, not root causes. Then people believe that they need to be on diabetes medication their whole life, blood pressure medication their whole life, cholesterol medication their whole life. These medications, people think they need to be on them their whole life. As a matter of fact, before I got into nutrition and before I got into USANA and learned the things that I have, my mother was on a statin drug for cholesterol for over 20 years. Until I did my own research, and actually we have a functional medicine doctor in USANA that wrote a book called The Cholesterol Conspiracy. And he taught me that it's a complete sham. These statin drugs, one of the main side effects is they weaken muscles, right? And the biggest muscle that you have in your body is your heart. So you're literally taking a medication that weakens the thing that you're trying to preserve. And the medications themselves are very ineffective for the majority of the population. So if the cholesterol is high, okay, we need to bring down the cholesterol, which we can do naturally. You don't need to rely on a medication. Now, In some instances, taking medications for a short period of time, totally fine. If it's an acute situation, you change your lifestyle, you add in some things, and then you get off the medication, right? Totally understandable. I have no problem with that. The problem is that's not the prescription that people get. When they go to the doctor, they say, here's your pill, you need to be on it for life. And then they cash in at the end of every month. So let's move forward. Here's another interesting one for those of you who are familiar with the food pyramid in the US. And I'll just let one of the experts explain about the food pyramid.
We got the food pyramid, which was a complete lie.
I think Jordan Peterson said it best when it might be one of the biggest crimes against humanity.
How do you fatten up an animal? You stuff them full of grains. And then acidosis. Grains in multiple stomach animals creates acidosis in their blood. If you eat that, that's acidosis in your blood. That's one of the 3 main factors of cancer. It's not that red meat's bad for you. It's sick animals. That's bad for you. And it's layered too, because people think they're eating food. But if there's seed oils, it's cooked in seed oils. They're fed corn. They're fed soy. Like, what does that do to your tissues? Well, my mentor said results never lie. So let's look at our results. 74% of the American people are obese or overweight. And we have type 1, 2, and 3 diabetes now with dementia. And it's not called dementia anymore, right? It's called Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. And then what are these grains? They're ultimately like sugar, especially corn. And then you got corn syrup and you have all these fake sugars. So we've got fake food.
So that's scary, you know, with the food that's being recommended is like literally upside down, right? So all of the foods that cause inflammation have the biggest part of the food pyramid. And it's just information that people need to know, right? If you eat a chicken or an animal that's been in a cage and is super stressed out and it's been injected with a growth hormone to make it grow faster so that it's bigger, so that they can try to feed more people with it, you're eating those stress hormones. You're eating those growth hormones. All of those things that are in that sick animal are now going in your body, making you sick, right? So we need to wake up. So the solution to the problem is actually a return to real nutrition, right? Like we said earlier, our grandparents used to eat food from the guy down the street who comes along with the cart and he yells in the morning and, you know, has organic produce from a local farmer, right? That's real nutrition, right? So the answer is real food, real health. Okay, let's just kind of quickly go over what are some good things. Good fats, butter, ghee, olive oil, coconut oil. Okay, none of these are super expensive. You can find them at your local store. Whole, unprocessed foods, grass-fed meats, organic vegetables. Okay, now it is true, grass-fed meats, they can be more expensive, right? But getting sick is much more expensive than the food that you're going to pay. And then healing with proper supplementation, right? So supplementation is a piece of the puzzle, okay? It's not a substitute for making better choices. It's not a substitute for educating yourself and your family on these things that are making you sick, but it is a supplement to making those food choices. And I've already shared with you the story about what happened with my father and what to me felt like a miracle, right? So when your body, which is made up of tiny little cells, gets the food that it needs, it can heal itself and it can protect itself. And this is where supplementation comes in, is you can actually give your cells everything that they need to fight the good fight. So this is why we chose USANA Health Sciences as our brand partner, right? We've been with this company for 13 years. I trust it with my parents. I trust it with my kids. I trust it with all my brothers, all my sisters, all of my relatives are taking the products. Why? Not because I'm trying to make a check, although that's nice. It's because I love them and I care about them and I want them to be healthy. And I know that these products will help them be healthier. So USANA is science-backed, right? For those of you who are familiar, there's a website called AskTheScientist.com. I highly recommend you go there, go under products and under research. You'll see all of the clinical trials, all of the third-party studies, all of the peer-reviewed journals, all of the actual science that's done by the company, and all of that goes into the research and development when we're making these products. You're not going to find any other nutrition company on planet Earth that spends the kind of money and takes the kind of time that it takes in order to actually do the kind of research that USANA does to make their products. They use the same manufacturing standards as pharmaceutical companies. Okay, so there's a difference between food grade and pharmaceutical grade. If you go to the grocery store and you buy a supplement, yes, is it cheaper? Probably. If you go to the vitamin shop and you get GNC, is it cheaper? Not really, but it's made to a food grade. And a food grade supplement means that legally they only have to have 20% of what's on the label actually in the product. So that 80%, who knows what that is, right? And actually GNC has been caught multiple times by the FDA in the US for cutting their products with unknown substances, right? So that other 80%, they take 100 bottles, ingredients that could make 100 bottles, and they turn it into 1,000 by watering those products down. And then people take them thinking that they're saving money, when they're not. They're just wasting money. Advanced technology, cutting edge cellular health solutions, right? We'll get into that a little bit more. I love this video because it really
This incredible cell belongs to you. But what is so incredible about your cells? When you nourish your cells properly, simple nutrients and proteins become complex systems and structures that adapt, regenerate, and grow. Working in your body day and night to do the things that make you, you. That's why at USANA, we're not just health obsessed, we're cell obsessed. Over 30 years, that obsession has been used to create products that help you care for your cells with the right nutrients in the right amounts. And to develop technologies like the patented USANA Intelligence technology with targeted health benefits that give your cells what they need to take care of you. USANA's science teams meticulously research, validate, and test every product every step of the way to ensure your cells get nothing but the best. That's why thousands of professional and Olympic athletes trust USANA more than any other supplement company in the world. Using the same nutrition you can trust to nourish your family. And USANA is working to create the healthiest family on Earth. A family built of people just like you, who care about the health of themselves, their community, and their planet. Working together to give back to underprivileged communities and focused on keeping our world beautiful, because healthy cells need a healthy environment to thrive. So, what is it that's so incredible about your cells? They are a part of what makes you, you. Start your own USANA story and see what the obsession is all about.
So that's what it's all about, guys. It's actually about creating healthy cells. And that's why I'm so inspired actually by Dr. Myron Wentz, right? This is the founder of our company. The company's been around for 33 years, and he's not some entrepreneur that created a company because they want to make money, right? He's a scientist that created the company because he wanted to provide nutritional supplements that could actually get people off of their dependence on medicine and the medical industry so that people can take back control over their own health. And this is his quote, right? I dream of a world free from pain and suffering. I dream of a world that's free from disease. The USANA family will be the healthiest family on earth. Share my vision, love life, and live it to its fullest in happiness and health. And that's just an incredibly inspiring vision. And they say you can judge the character of man by the size of his vision. And I would say that this is an extraordinary large vision, right? And it really speaks to the character of Dr. Myron Wentz. And I hope that everybody on this call gets an opportunity to actually see him speak in person one day, because it is an incredible experience. So I see that there's some questions. You guys want to put the questions in the chat, or you can come off mute and ask the question if you'd like. Okay, let's finish this section, and before we get into the products, we can go over any questions that are out there. So the last thing I actually want to share with you guys is the other thing that really inspires me and inspired me to get started in USANA and inspires me about USANA. And that is, and this is something that you can say proudly to people that you know, right? USANA has more professional and Olympic level athletes that trust USANA than any other nutritional supplement company in the world, and it's not even close. Okay, we have thousands of gold medals, silver, bronze, gold, that have been won by our brand ambassadors, which, by the way, don't get money. We don't pay our brand ambassadors. They get products, and in exchange for partnering with USANA, right? There's a lot of nutrition companies out there that pay a lot of money to big name athletes to go out there and show a product like an influencer. But I can assure you that Ronaldo and Messi do not take those products in their body, right? They treat their bodies like a temple. And the reason why we have so many athletes that flock to USANA is because they know that USANA has world-class excellence and science behind the products, and their body is their business, right? They want to put the best thing that they possibly can in their body.
Yeah. Put me on the stage now. I'm ready to rage now. I feel like an animal stuck in a cage and I'm ready to break out. My time, my time. None of you people can tell me to stop. Ready to do this, show you what the truth is. I step on the field, it's time to get real. I'm feeling so ruthless. My time, my time. None of you people can tell me to stop.
You want to be a well-oiled machine, and to do that, you need to be fueling your body with the best of the best.
운동선수로서 제가 항상 피크에 시합해야 되고 훈련해야 되지만
if I don't put the right things into my body, it won't perform when I ask it to.
Yeah. So what are you afraid of? Those feelings are made up. Get in the game, your moment of fame, show them what you made of. For anyone asking who is the best, we putting our hands up.
Why do I take USANA? Because USANA's the best. I know it's clean, I know it's safe. I can't chance my career and my reputation on a product that I don't trust.
tout simplement, c'est la raison pourquoi j'ai choisi USANA.
We know what it takes to be reaching the top. Tell me to stop, my town, my crown. We know what it takes to be reaching the top.
I trust USANA.
I trust USANA. I trust USANA.
Yo confío en USANA.
Trust.
I trust USANA because they put as much care and hard work into their product as I do to my training.
I don't have to worry about what I'm taking.
I know that I'm getting everything I need.
It's about the products.
Okay, so before I introduce our next speaker, I just want to share that this was a big motivation for me when I first started with USANA. I was getting ready to train for my first boxing fight, as I shared with you guys. And at that time, the #1 and #2 ranked boxers in the world were getting ready to fight, Manny Pacquiao and Tim Bradley. And they were both USANA athletes. And I thought to myself, I'm getting ready to train for a boxing match. Why on earth would I not use the same products that two of the #1 athletes, boxers in the world, swear by and trust? And so that's what I want to leave you guys with, is trust. I trust these products with my family, the people that I love the most. I trust the products because athletes trust the products. It's all about trust, trust, trust. The science is there. The research is there. The manufacturing is there. Everything is there to trust this company and their products. And all we have to do is go out and share incredible products with people that we love. And I promise you, you'll make a business that takes care of you for the rest of your life, and that you can trust.